To your spring statement next week and Brexit. Now, it's quite a big if you're using there. You're saying if we get a deal. We have just heard from France's Europe minister, and I quote, "There were no precise proposals tabled by the UK in the last day." This is pretty extraordinary. France is saying that the Attorney General, the Brexit Secretary, are going to Brussels just days before what looks like being the crucial vote on Brexit, and Britain still hasn't tabled anything specific.
Well, I think what she said was in the last day. I think Geoffrey Cox will have tabled his proposal.
She went on to say we're waiting for a sustainable proposal.
Well, this is a negotiation, and we consider that we've tabled a sustainable proposal. Geoffrey Cox, the Attorney General, has spent a lot of time with colleagues in Brussels crafting a legal form of words that will address our need for a legal certainty around the assurance that Britain cannot be trapped in the backstop indefinitely. That's what we need. All of my European colleagues tell me privately that they accept that it would be absurd to suggest that a country as large and powerful as the UK could be trapped against its will in an arrangement like the backstop in perpetuity. It simply couldn't happen. Our challenge is to find a form of legally binding words acceptable to both sides that turn that acknowledged reality into an agreed text and a treaty-based commitment that both sides can rely on.
Do you accept that at the moment, and many of your cabinet colleagues are quoted in the papers, anonymously of course, saying this, you are heading for another defeat next Tuesday? You simply do not have the offer and you do not have the votes to get Theresa May's Brexit deal through the House of Commons.
Well, we're still in a negotiation with the European Union, and I would like to have had it done earlier, but these things do tend to go to the wire. And I have great confidence in the Brexit Secretary and the Attorney General in the work that they're doing, and I hope that they will come back with an offer which my colleagues on the Brexit wing of the party will consider very, very carefully in the context of the real situation that we're in. Because if the Prime Minister's deal does not get approved on Tuesday, then it is likely that the House of Commons will vote to extend the Article 50 procedure to not leave the European Union without a deal. And where we go thereafter is highly uncertain. And for those people who are passionate about ensuring that we leave the European Union on time, it surely must be something that they need to think very, very carefully about now, because they run the risk of us moving away from their preferred course of action if we don't get this deal through on Tuesday.
You have some thinking to do as well. When I last spoke to you when you were at the Davos summit, I asked you if you would quit your job if the government adopted a policy of leaving with no deal, and you said that now wasn't the time to answer that question. Have you answered it in your own mind? Do you know what you'll do?
The government is going to, if we were not to succeed in the vote on Tuesday, and that's where our energies are focused at the moment, then the next step of the process would be for the House of Commons to vote on whether or not we should leave on March 29th without a deal.
And would you vote against that?
On Wednesday? Well, look, I've always said, Nick, that I believe it would be a very bad outcome
so you'd vote against
for the UK to leave the European Union without a deal. But there isn't a motion yet. We haven't crafted the motion that we will put before the House on Wednesday. So I can't say how I will vote on a motion that hasn't yet.
Could you stay in a government that's instructed you through the whip to vote for leaving the EU on time, even with no deal?
Well, look, I'm not going to speculate about something that hasn't happened and I don't think will happen, because I think the government is very clear where the will of Parliament is on this. Parliament will vote not to leave the European Union without a deal next Wednesday. I have a high degree of confidence about that. But we do need to have a clear confirmation. It's right that Parliament should make that decision.
Okay.
And then we'll put the question about extending Article 50 and how we try to break this impasse by finding a consensus.
Well,
across
breaking the
House of
impasse by
Commons.
finding a consensus is one thing that Jeremy Corbyn and your old cabinet colleague, Sir Oliver Letwin, were doing last night. Tories and the Labour leader meeting to say, look, there is a middle ground. It's called the Customs Union. It would mean you breaking a manifesto pledge. It would mean you upsetting many of your colleagues. Could you live with that, a customs union, if the Commons voted for it?
Well, look, I'm not going to speculate on various different routes that might be taken by the House of Commons to try
You're not going to rule it out.
break this impasse. Well, look, what I would say, Nick, is this: you're not raising an issue that isn't widely known and understood, that the Labour Party has been talking for a long time about the idea of a customs union grafted onto the PM's deal. And those of my colleagues who feel very strongly against that proposal need to think very, very hard about the implications of voting against the Prime Minister's deal next Tuesday, because we will then be in unknown territory where a consensus will have to be forged across the House of Commons, and that will inevitably mean compromises being made. And the way for my colleagues to avoid that is to vote for the Prime Minister's deal on Tuesday and get it done.
One last thing, to connect the two stories, because they will be connected on the day and they're connected in your mind. If, contrary to your belief and your advice, people were to vote for no deal, leaving the EU, would austerity inevitably continue?
Well, what I've said many times is that we've got adequate fiscal reserves now, because the public finances have improved very significantly over the last couple of years. But we've been holding those in reserve because precisely of the possibility that we might leave the EU without a deal, and we would need a pot of money to support the UK economy through the inevitable disruption that would cause. Now, if that money is spent on dealing with the disruption of a no-deal exit, it can't be spent on policing, on social care, on schools, on higher education, on defence, all the other things that people want to see money being directed to. So to put it
simply, I think you're saying this: if you want more police officers, Philip Hammond, the Chancellor, is saying, if you vote for no deal, there's no money for more police officers. Forget it.
I'm saying that if we vote for a deal, with the implementation period, so that we have a smooth exit from the European Union to a new relationship with the EU that allows us to carry on trading, that protects our economy, our jobs and our prosperity, there will be more money available for public services when we come to the spending review later on this year.